Welcome back to DIVEBOMB IndyCar podcast, and as usual, we are right in the thick of it, in the middle of our seasoning. We're coming to that kind of festive period where there's even less IndyCar news to talk about, but the off-seasoning grind continues. Our ideas keep on coming in large abundance, fantastic ideas every week, which we'll have even more of this week. But viewers, if you have any ideas for the future weeks, let us know. I mean, I'm not saying we're running out of ideas, but we don't have many in the bank. So if you have any ideas, get in touch, or get in touch if you want to listen in. If you want to talk to us about anything else, got any questions for us, anything you want us to discuss, any ideas for the podcast, let us know for the future, because they'll be very much appreciated. But this week we have some minor news to go over, a bit of fun stuff as well in there, as always. But it's a bit of news which we'll cover in a minute, and then we've got a bit of a different segment at the end, which I'll explain later. But it's one for our UK viewers. But if you are American or Canadian or wherever you're from, continue to listen in, because this will still be of interest to you. So I'll save that to the end. I'll keep the suspense in the air ahead of that segment. But as usual, we will start off with the news. And there's one major bit of news this week, which isn't the most exciting in the world, probably to some of you viewers, but we must let you know, which is Penske Entertainment, who is obviously Roger Penske's company, which owns IMS and owns the series, has acquired the Grand Prix Association of Long Beach, obviously the longest running street race in North America. And Long Beach celebrates its 50th anniversary next year, the 50th edition of the Grand Prix of Long Beach. So obviously, you said Roger Penske has basically bought out a stake owned by someone called Gerald Forsyth. It's one which protects the future of Long Beach, is probably the way I'd put it. There's been suggestions that NASCAR have been looking at avenues of racing in Long Beach, but this certainly solidifies it further as an IndyCar event, and they say it's the first of many meaningful announcements to come. But as we said, it's not the most thrilling bit of news. It's not one which will make huge changes to IndyCar, or a bit of news that anybody will really notice, to be honest, but it's significant for the future and sort of reassures IndyCar's commitment to Long Beach.
Yeah, I think for what on the face of it looks like or seems like a relatively maybe minor piece of news, is a bit more significant, and there's a bit more to unpack than you kind of may think almost. I think, yeah, as you say, it does solidify that the series is there at Long Beach for the long haul. I mean, that move to kind of fend off the interest from other series is, I guess, a statement of sorts. And what Penske have said as well, it's going to provide more investment for the event. I think, yeah, the thing that has stood out to me the most is the fact that, you know, they've just made this statement that this is an IndyCar event, and it's necessary to have this sort of security, because alongside the Indy 500, this is really the series of the marquee blue ribbon event. And I think it's good to see that acknowledgement that it's really needed to preserve this sort of, you know, backbone event for the series. And, you know, after all, this is the longest major street circuit race in the US, in North America. And I think, you know, it's all the more significant as well that this news drops before what is the 50th anniversary this year, actually, which is a pretty big deal. It kind of continues a bit of a trend as well of Penske run events. I know some kind of view that as a bad thing, but I think on this occasion, it's by no means a bad thing. Obviously, amid this talk of NASCAR being interested, they've started to break into urban markets with Chicago the last couple of years, for instance. And, you know, Penske essentially purchasing the event by purchasing the Grand Prix Association of Long Beach means that it's not on the open market. It's locked down. NASCAR can't come in, or if F1 wanted to come back, they can't come in. So, yeah, as the leadership of the event have said, right now the city only has one weekend available for a race, and as it stands, there's no leeway outside of those sort of 3 days. And it's been explicitly said that those 3 days are for IndyCar. They're kind of not entertaining much other speculation. The deal at the moment runs through 2028, which is incidentally when Long Beach will actually host a few events in the Olympics in 4 years' time. So there's no discussions yet as to kind of extending that agreement further. But there is a lot of talk about longevity and IndyCar really kind of maintaining its position at the forefront in Long Beach for a long while to come. So yeah, kind of just building on that. I just wanted to touch on a few things that Mark Miles has spoken about in the aftermath of this announcement. There is a piece up on the DIVEBOMB website that I've written as well, if you want to kind of view it in written form with some of the quotes, etc. But as you mentioned, Dan, this is said to be what is part of a series of announcements, as the series targets what Miles describes as a rapid increase in growth, which I think is positive sort of self-awareness. They know that they are in a position where they really need to grow. But when you think about it, we've had, already in terms of announcements before the season ended, or long before the season ended, kind of mid-season, there was the announcement about the Fox TV deal, the all-network TV deal. Since the season, we've already had talk of the confirmation of the charter system, of this, by all accounts, exciting new Arlington race across, these multiple sporting partners, high profile, coming in 26. So that's positive. And, obviously people are skeptical. People are saying, well, we need to see these things before we start buying into and believing this positivity. But I think I want to hark back to content day ahead of the 2024 season. I really remember some of the drivers speaking of meetings they'd had and things that were really positive about the direction of the series. And maybe it does feel like some of these things are starting to maybe come to fruition. I think there is a clear intention to kind of stimulate growth through some of these steps that IndyCar are making. So yeah, there is supposedly more to come across the off season. Leadership have been briefed on the plans from Fox, and there's supposedly a lot of emphasis on the marketing, the promotion, which is all the stuff that we've kind of said they really need to do. We've obviously seen some of that already with mentions of the Indy 500 or the Arlington race during NFL broadcasts. And I think one thing Miles said that I found interesting was that they're aiming to go beyond the natural reach and really kind of tap into a new audience via this kind of network television slot. He wants it to be hoped that they may expand beyond the US and Canada. Mexico's top of mind at the moment in terms of getting a race there, as is much desired. I think Miles knows and acknowledges the fan base that there is in Latin America, and that, okay, they're not going to go to South America at the moment, but Mexico is possible. And, this is not forgotten in the longer term future. So, yeah, I like that they are consciously trying to innovate, to invest. The investment's going to be so key. They really want to target kind of new fans, new demographics, and it's much needed. And I have hope after hearing what Miles has had to say. Obviously, hope and things actually coming to fruition and paying off a completely different thing. But I think there are positive glimmers. We'll just have to see where that goes.
Small little news from the Meyer Shank camp, not the IndyCar one, the IMSA camp. We know Tom Blomqvist is going to be doing the endurance races next year for them, as is Colin Brown, I believe. I think we said earlier. Dixon Plow will be in the Acura Meyer Shank car for all the endurance events. That includes Sebring, that includes Road Atlanta, that includes IMS. So there's quite a few events there. Watkins Glen is another one as well. And Felix Rosenqvist will do the Rolex 24 as well next season. Obviously, they've got 4 drivers for that race in comparison to 3 for the Enduros and 2 in the shorter events. Pelot's lining up alongside Renger van der Zande and Nick Yellerly, and then Dixon will be alongside Blomqvist and Brown. Carl Rosenqvist will also be in at the start of for the Rolex 24 next season. So that's that little bit of news. There was a IMSA test actually at Daytona in the previous week. Rosenqvist and Dixon tested in that car. Grosjean was back with Lamborghini as he was this season. Pelot tested as well, obviously. Toby Sowry was back in the number 4 LMP2 car. Hunter McElroy, obviously, I think he's been confirmed this week actually to continue that program. He said with us a few weeks ago that he did. He was working towards that. That's been confirmed in the last week or so, and he tested. He tested there at that Daytona test and Kyle Kirkwood was also there in the GTD Pro for Vasser Sullivan, and Christian Rasmussen was also there in the 99 LMP2 out of active drivers. So some familiar faces there. But as we said, Dixon Pallone for the Enduros, and then Rosenqvist in for Daytona with Meyershank. Obviously, this links back to their alliance with Chip Ganassi Racing, which was announced a couple of months ago now. So the alliance proving worthwhile in that department.
One part of the MSR Ganassi alliance that I think was kind of expected, because Dixon has been a frequenter in sports cars for a long time, so it would have been hard to see him dropping out completely. And obviously gives a place for Palou as well to continue to get his top class experience, and Rosenqvist as well. That would be interesting.
Scott Dixon and Alex Palou will be driving in the IMSA endurance events next year alongside their IndyCar commitments. And if you'd like to support either driver heading into next season, you can, of course, get their merchandise. And for the Model Shop website, you can, of course, buy it there. And they've got some cracking deals for both Dixon and Palou. So if you buy a Scott Dixon cap and a Scott Dixon jersey, you get a free Scott Dixon Wonder 64 diecast included. And if you support Alex Palou, you can get an Alex Palou driver jersey. And with that, you get a free DHL cap to support Alex Palou with. Same applies if you're a Scott McLaughlin or Joseph Newgarden fan. If you buy a hat and a jersey, you can get a free diecast with it, similarly to Dixon. Formula Model Shop is the best place to get your IndyCar merchandise in the UK and the rest of Europe.
You can use the discount code 51, or one word, FIVEBOMB, to gain 5% off products on the FMS site. Visit the highlights on the DIVEBOMB Motorsport Instagram account for a link to an exclusive VIP section on the FMS store, courtesy of DIVEBOMB.
Once you've read all the articles on the DIVEBOMB website, you can head over to the banner on our homepage, which takes you straight to the Formula Model Shop website. Alternatively, you can visit formulamodelshop.co.uk.
Stay tuned for exclusive giveaways, events, and other content.
Talking of testing, they have released the big thermal test. I say big thermal test, the tester thermal that we've seemingly gone on about for about 4 weeks. Logan Sargent we've touched on for Meyershank, Felipe Nasr we've touched on for Team Penske, Enzo Fittipaldi we've touched on for Aaron McLaren. There's a few others we have. Louis Foster we also touched on for Rahal Letman Lanigan Racing. I don't think we said Hunter McElrea will be there for Ed Carpenter Racing, and Toby Sowery will also be there for Dale Coyne Racing. I believe that is it. McElrea, briefly, we know Carpenter afield, but cool to see him getting some opportunities for more testing. And Sowery is probably one with a bit more interest, considering Coyne still have 2 cars available. So they might be testing him, looking at something more substantial going into next year. We've touched on the other 4 already, but those are the 2 I don't think we have mentioned yet. So on the day of release, that test will be happening probably a few hours after the episode goes live. So it might have already happened by the time some of you are listening to it, but there we are.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things going to be happening, because some are going to be driver evaluations to kind of varying degrees. You've got Fittipaldi for Aaron McLaren, which isn't obviously a team with a seat, where you're always, as you say, Sowery with Coyne. That could be, they know what he can do, but it could be some sort of audition. Then you've got the likes of Nasr for Penske, which is obviously not even a driver evaluation. That's probably just the use of a test day, get some data. You've got Sargent, who might be doing this for his own benefit as well, to get, Meyershank to get the attention, but again, then Sargent to kind of figure out whether he's cut out for this IndyCar stuff. So, Foster, for instance, he's betting in a new team. So there's all sorts of different stuff kind of going on there. It'd be interesting to see whether kind of anything comes from it.
Yeah, I guess we'll hear bits and bobs, but a lot of different reasons going on for the same test. So I believe 6 cars.
Just to add as well, we've now had that Texas Motor Speedway test as well, with Jacob Abel for Ganassi and Gabby Chavez for Andretti.
Which Chavez wasn't mentioned by anybody at all, but there we are. He was there. Not sure the intentions are there. When was the last time Gabby Chavez racing? It must be 7-8 years ago now. I think it was 2018. Yeah, 2018. So, with Andretti as well. I don't know. There must be some reason. I don't know.
Probably just for them as well, getting an oval test day, I guess. And obviously with Abel, I mentioned last week that is possibly more of, is he getting an oval test because he's intending to run the 500 possibly. And Chavez, I don't know what the intention will be there.
It's coming back. Marco wasn't confirmed. He wasn't committed. They weren't committed to having Marco in the car, so maybe it's Chavez. I don't know. If I feel it comes true, I'll be the one laughing. Stingray Rob has an announcement which was oddly cancelled this week in some more bizarre news, because he had a teaser saying, "Oh, at this time we've got an announcement." Then he cancelled it. Then he deleted it. And then we had a picture of his wedding, which is still very nice, and congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Rob for getting married. But some announcements have seemingly been cancelled. So something's happened in the Rob camp, which is a bit unexplained. Still yet to know where he ends up, but it's just a bit of a bizarre scenario.
Yeah, and we still sit at 5 seats remaining. I know Pietro Fittipaldi also had an announcement, which wasn't IndyCar either. It was a racing thing. That was IMSA. I think he did reply to a comment saying that something about you can expect something soon on the rest of his future and stuff. I don't know whether he said specifically that he could. Did he say that he could run IndyCar alongside his IMSA possibly?
Yep.
So that's an interesting one to watch. But we still sit at these 5 remaining seats: the 2 Hunkos Hollinger seats, the 2 Dale Coyne seats, and then the 1 Rahal Letterman Lanigan seat. So it's kind of at a bit of a lull at the moment. There's not much happening. You've obviously got this kind of pool of Daly, Fittipaldi, Rob, VK, Lundqvist. I mean, you look at even drivers like, I don't know, Abel, Sowery, McElrea. If kind of a group of these drivers can get something figured out. Obviously, we don't know whether Coyne will be 1 driver or multiple drivers per car. Then do you get the likes of Legg, the likes of Jamie Chadwick in the frame? So there's still so much to be confirmed that is kind of, I mean, Grosjean as well. What's he going to end up doing? There's a lot of names in the frame still, and it seems like there's some sort of stalemate. And it did seem like, I mean, Rob must have had something he was going to announce, and then something has changed. Whether that means, I don't know, someone's come into a team that's trumped him financially, or trumped him as a better option that still brings money, or has he got a better offer or better option elsewhere from somewhere that he initially signed? We're obviously speculating, but something's happened. Just not sure what.
So yeah, Fittipaldi replied to a comment saying he can do both. Someone also said, where is Indy? He said, calm down, I'm working, I can do both. But that doesn't really make sense, because he says he's doing a full LMP2 program with Pratt Miller Motorsports next season. But there are some clashes. Watkins Glen, for example, is on the same weekend as IndyCar goes to Road America. You've got the Mosport event is the same weekend as Iowa, for example. So there are 2 clashes there. So I am not fully clear on what Fittipaldi's plans are. But he seems like he can do both, so I don't know. Whatever he says.
Maybe it's a part season with Dale Coyne.
Could be, but yeah, so it'd be a bit weird to miss out 1 road course and 2 over races, because that is 3 races lost, which
it's strange,
isn't, unless he drops the LP2s for those races, but I don't know. Yeah, we'll find out. Did you see Conor Daly's bet with Alex Pillow?
I did, yeah. The diapers for
diaper bet.
finishing behind him in the Indy 8 hour, wasn't it?
Yes. I think he said he had no idea what he was buying. It was like $100 worth of diapers, apparently. I think he did in the end, but
yeah, I never got round to watching the full video, but I saw a snippet of it.
Yeah. Same here, but I think he ended up buying Pillow all these diapers. He didn't know what he was buying, but there we are. Kiffin Simpson sent everyone a bit crazy because he jokingly suggested IndyCar should go to the Cayman Islands. And I think he made a list of reasons why IndyCar should go to the Cayman Islands. Says off-season too long, 1 hour 45 flight from Miami, great weather, fun non-racing activities, you have Wendy's and Starbucks, and Stingray City, brackets, real place. And everyone's been going a bit mental that there's a place in the Cayman Islands called Stingray City for Stingray Rob to race in.
He's
And
a funny guy, Kevin. He's a funny guy.
he responded to the tweet saying Reddit's on the layout already, and then the skull emoji, because people have literally gone on Reddit and created a layout around Stingray City. So quite funny, but I think it all started off when we did like an Ask Me Anything, because he was in Paris or something, and created loads of memes. So fair play, it's quite funny. But maybe that's where IndyCar its international status needs to go, to the Cayman Islands.
He's climbing the IndyCar. I don't want to say Twitter anymore, because I mean there's an exodus on Twitter from some people. Won't get into that. But he's becoming one of the higher up IndyCar social media drivers to follow.
Yes. Yeah, I think he's obviously on the younger side, so he just a bit. He's just a not grown up child. He's just a more mature child who just responds to people on Twitter. It's rather funny, to be fair. So fair play to him. made me chuckle. But yeah, that's where
another tweet. Another tweet. Did you see what Conor Daly said in the aftermath of the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight? I think it was addressed to. I mean, Jake Paul tweeted saying, "Dear Conor, I know you told my team you would fight me at 170 pounds, blah blah blah." I assume it's addressed to Conor McGregor, but Conor it didn't specify. So Conor Daly quoted it and said, "Will it pay enough to fund my IndyCar season, Jake? Because if so, I emoji." Conor Daly versus Jake Paul. Anyone? Is Conor Daly old enough?
Yeah, how old is Conor Daly? 33, 32? He's 32. Might be
a bit young for Jake Paul.
Yeah, Jake. Yeah, 5 years gap between Jake Paul and Conor Daly, so let's see it happen. Right, as we said, it is off seasoning, so therefore we need something to fill up the time. And this is one we've been looking at for a while.
It's pretty wacky.
So I'll give you some context. We've been talking about international races for a while. We've been talking about, what would happen if you brought IndyCar to the UK? And one of the issues was, teams will need new sponsors in the UK because they won't appeal to those markets. And yeah, very good point. So IndyCar teams are doing all the work for you this week. We will find the sponsors that you need to sign in order to race in the UK. So we'll do all the work for you. We'll give you the sponsors. You just have to sign the agreements, put liveries on the cars and race them. So we're saving the IndyCar teams a lot of hassle here by finding their equivalent sponsors for the actual sponsors they race.
And this is a bit twofold, because if you're American and you haven't heard of any of these British companies, and I will be honest, I haven't even heard of some of the British companies I've selected. But this can also be kind of an exercise in introducing you to some of the kind of sponsors we have in IndyCar, because there are a lot and they are ever changing. So
yes,
that's another part of this exercise.
That was exactly sort of my thoughts, where, look, I don't know Harvey's sponsors, but I can teach you about some of these sponsors and you can find out what they do. Because some of them I was like, I had absolutely no idea you did something like that. So it's going to be a learning day about all the sponsors. Now, to make clear, there are 80 different sponsors this year. We're not going to do all 80. We're going to split it half and half. We'll do some other at some other point. So we're going to do the Chevrolet powered entries for this week. I've done half of them and Archie's done half of them. So there's approximately 40 to go for this week, which is quite a lot. But we'll give you a bit about every sponsor, and we'll give you maybe a UK equivalent for each sponsor. Again, if you're American, I know you've probably never heard of half these brands, but at least you get to know what the sponsors do. If you're British, you have a little bit of fun. Maybe you can design some liveries if you're fantastically designed or something. So let's start off with some of New Garden's ones, because he had quite a few. So the first one I had on my list was PPG, which, if you didn't know, is a supplier of paints, coatings, and specialty materials. They do have a presence in the United Kingdom, but they have like a parent group. I hate all this business parent group waffles nonsense. But anyway, one of them is the owner of Dulux, which is a fairly common paint brand in the UK. So Dulux is a nice, obvious choice.
Yep, my first one is Hitachi, which is another one actually that has a presence in the UK, because I think Hitachi is Japanese. It's all stuff kind of technology, and when I searched Hitachi, the first thing that came up was some sort of funky looking drill. So I went for JCB, which they do sort of diggers and stuff in the UK, but they also do drills. So I've gone for JCB.
That leads us excellently to my one, because it's actually also JCB for my next one. Because I went for Snap-on, who are an American designer, manufacturer, and marketer of high-end tools and equipment for professional use in the transportation industry, including the automotive, heavy-duty equipment, marine, aviation, and railroad industries. Apparently, they do sell in the UK, but I just thought power tools, it's got to be JCB. That was like the British stereotype there for tools. So saving Penske time here. We're cutting down their liveries from 2 to 1 by combining JCB. So we're doing them a favour.
The next one for me is, again, it's a funny one because Shell has quite a large presence in the UK. In fact, I think my nearest petrol station, or if you're American, gas station, is Shell. So I've gone for the one that's next closest after Shell, which is Esso, the number 2 Esso Chevrolet.
What about BP, British Petroleum, the British Petroleum Chevrolet? Get a nice green livery on there. Astemo was my next one, which is linked to Hitachi. Honestly, half the sponsors I researched, and I still don't understand what they do. And this was one of them.
Same.
Apparently, it's a technology company that develops, manufactures, sells, and services automotive and transportation components, as well as industrial machinery systems. No idea what it meant. Apparently, they sell in the UK and they operate out of Bolton. Apparently, I've no idea, but Mitsubishi were sort of my closest competitor to what they do. So we'll do the Mitsubishi number 2 Penske Chevrolet.
So next up is Tire Rack. And I think this is another New Garden one.
Yes.
But this is kind of, well, their website says tires, wheels, car parts, accessories. So I've kind of gone for, it's not a direct kind of comparison, but I've gone for Quick Fit, which for those who don't know is a kind of quite popular UK car fixing garage place.
Fine. Now we move on to McLaughlin's, and he's got absolutely tons. So the first one I had is Dex Imaging, which he calls the Printer Wagon. So they provide photocopiers, printers, and other office equipment, and they resell the likes of Canon printers and HP printers. So they basically like service and sell products at the same time. So there isn't really a UK equivalent as such, because there's no like distributor of all these printers and who service them all. So I know they sell Canon, but I'm just going to go for Canon because that comes across as a nice traditional British brand, sponsored Williams back in the day in Formula One. So it's not quite the same thing, but they sell printers, so that would do.
Next up for me is Expel, who are a paint protection and window tinting company, which is a lot of these sponsors seem quite niche. So I kind of did a search just to see whether there's anything similar in the UK, and I found Chips Away, which I feel like I've seen on quite a few adverts, which kind of, they work on kind of fixing car scratches, bodyworks, similar stuff to that.
Next one I had is Odyssey Battery, who are a global leader in stored energy solutions for automotive, military, and industrial applications. Odyssey Battery, I couldn't find anything in the UK, and I don't really know anything about UK battery companies. So I did a very minor bit of research, and I found shieldbatteries.co.uk. So we'll have the shieldbatteries.co.uk Team Penske, just from Scott McLaughlin.
Nice exposure for them, because I can't say I know who they are.
Neither do I.
So next one's a good one. Good Ranchers, which is obviously kind of a meat company. They do barbecues and stuff. Nice and simple. I've gone for Great British Meat. So number company? 3, yes, it is apparently. The number 3, Great British Meat Chevrolet.
Doesn't quite have the same ring, does it? My next one was Soncio, who seem quite similar to Expel from what you said, because they provide protection for vehicles, tyres, wheels, and other automotive parts, and offer services for replacement. So they get like fancy gadgets which will make the car unable to take damage somewhere. So they don't operate in the UK. And again, this is something I found quite hard to find a comparison to, but I've gone for Halfords. Because they do like car replacements and fixing if they need to, and they're the type of store which will sell these weird fungi parts for your car. So nice traditional British brand there. So
next up is Pennzoil, who they're a motor oil company, I think is kind of technically what they're called. And I found quite a direct comparison actually in the UK, that being a brand that is definitely already involved in motorsport, that being Castrol.
So my final one from McLaughlin was Gallagher Insurance. So an insurance firm based in Chicago, but actually I'm going to keep them on for this British race because the UK makes up 14% of their revenue, and I had no idea, but they're the title sponsor of UK Premiership Rugby. So they already have a presence.
I was just going to say that I knew there was something to do with rugby. I was in the process of Googling what it was. So yeah, that is a nice shout. Next up for me is Freightliner, which is an interesting one because I was on the train into Manchester the other week, and a freight train came past, and interestingly, it said on it, on one of the kind of, I don't know, I think on like the connecting things where they have the kind of the containers, it said Freightliner. So at the time I was like, I better do some Googling. It's not the same thing because apparently Freightliner, the McLaughlin thing, is actually like a trucking service. So I've gone for Eddie Stobart, who, for our American listeners, are a kind of truck, lorry, sort of just transportation company firm.
Fine. So we'll next move on to some of the McLarens. So I'll go on to number 6 first of all, because number 5 only has one sponsor, which we'll get into in a minute. Is NTT Data, obviously the title partner of IndyCar. I still don't really know what they do, to be honest, but apparently they're an IT consulting company. And according to them, they do have a presence in the UK because their London data center market is one of the most active co-location ecosystems in the world, and it's a strategic hub for data center services for both UK organizations as well as multinational companies. Did you understand any of that? Because I didn't.
No, I didn't.
They apparently have 20 years of experience in the UK market, and they continue to build the foundation to successfully serve this vibrant data center market then in the future. No idea what they did. Still don't really understand it, to be honest, but I said they're most comparable to Cognizant, who sponsored Aston Martin F1 team for a while. I think they're from the US, but they sponsor a traditional British team in Formula One, so we're going for Cognizant.
So Arrow Electronics, the kind of key sponsor of the team, is my next one, and I am no closer to understanding what on earth Arrow Electronics does. I mean, they are, as their website says, a global provider of technology products and services, but for the life of me, I just cannot figure out what they do or anything that's similar to what they do. So I've gone for confused.com.
That's a good idea. Ready for this? Smart Stop Self-Storage. They are a leading provider of convenient and secure self-storage locations, offering state-of-the-art facilities with a wide variety of unit sizes to meet your storage needs. Now, this isn't something I think really exists in the UK, is big storage units to store stuff. But they operate in Canada, and they have more than 195 properties covering 15.3 million square feet. So honestly, I had no idea, so I just randomly searched up, and what I found was Monster Self-Storage in the UK. They're based in Scotland, apparently. The only thing I could find remotely close after a very brief Google search. So it's not really a thing you need in the UK, is big storage units, but it does really sound like some local town, and we're going to rock up to a race in the UK, one of the biggest teams of some random Scottish storage unit company is the title sponsor.
I hope we don't lose you at some of these Arrow McLaren sponsors because they are slightly confusing. I mean, some of you might be really techie, but this is beyond my pay grade. So the next one is onsemi, which is a global leader in power and image sensing solutions for various markets. It is a semiconductor corporation, whatever that may mean. So I found a semiconductor company in the UK, which is called Mouser Electronics. And I think that's all we need to say on semiconductors.
So next one is Velo, who Rossi ran in every race this year, who seems to do nicotine pouches. Don't know anything about them. Did a very vague Google search, and apparently something. I think Velo do sell in the UK, but it's slightly be different. So it's something called Nordic Spirit. So they'll do apparently.
Nice. Next up is the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, which is one of the most interesting sponsors during the year, as kind of Arrow McLaren partnered with Scott Borchetta and team to promote the well, to be part of the pretty impressive promotional effort for the Nashville Super Speedway season finale, after all the chopping and changing that went on there. So nice and simple. This is going to be the British Grand Prix car, the number 6 British Grand Prix Chevy.
I would disagree. I would personally go for the Brands Hatch British Truck Championship as the title sponsor.
Okay,
that one.
Sure thing.
Well,
If we want to go for the music angle, it could be the Glastonbury Chevy, big music festival.
Hold a street race around Glastonbury. Sexton Properties, moving on to Santino Ferrucci. They're apparently just some builders and home developers. No, nothing, but the company I found in the UK are called Barratt Developments. And I have never found a more British name for a company than Barratt Developments. So they make houses, apparently.
So my next one, well, I have another Aaron McLaren one, but I'll just go on to the Santino Ferrucci one just because it feels right. Phoenix investors who seem to take kind of real estate that is old kind of manufacturing land and make it into, I don't know, houses and stuff, I think is my guess. So this will mean absolutely nothing to anyone. It won't mean anything to you. It doesn't mean anything to me. Segro, who seem to do a similar thing with like brownfield sites in the UK. Gosh, I feel like I'm going back to a geography class.
So my next one is Bomarito Automotive Group, who obviously run the Gateway race, and I commonly refer to as Burrito. I can't put Chipotle in as a title. Well, I could put Chipotle in as a title sponsor because that'd be more interesting, actually. I'm tempted to do that now. But I am doing Chipotle, but I'll give you my original one. So the Bomarito Automotive Group is the 72nd biggest car dealership in the United States. Now, for example, some of the rivals there are Penske, HendrickCars.com, AutoNation, Jimmy Johnson's ex-sponsor Carvana. So there's a lot of competition here in and around the motorsport scene. So for the UK equivalent, I went for the 72nd biggest dealership in the UK, which is Brindley Garages. Another excellent British name, but I might change it to Chipotle now because we're calling it the Burrito 500. So it's now Chipotle.
Big fan. So we're just going to quickly go back to Aaron McLaren again in the number 7 Chevy. And there was a bit of a confusion here because I couldn't find Ride, which is their sponsor, Ride with a Y. I couldn't even find it on their list of partners. So I've just taken Dan's word for it being an Uber-like kind of car ride service. And I would have gone for Uber because that's obviously prevalent in the UK. But whenever I go on Google Maps and try to find out how long it takes to get to places, something called Bolt comes up. So
I tell you what I was thinking of. I was thinking of Lift with a Y, but it's a similar word, so that would do.
Okay, yeah, sure. Bolt is my answer. Sounds cool. The Bolt Chevy.
So from one automotive group to another, I've got the HendrickCars.com for the number 17 Aaron McLaren, which is obviously run by Larson. So Hendrick is the 5th biggest car dealership in the United States. So as we said, there's a lot of competition here. They might be bigger now because of Larson's success at Indianapolis. But anyway, from this random sheet I found, they're the 5th biggest car dealership in the United States. So the 5th biggest in the UK is called Virtue Motors.
Nice. Can't say I've heard of them, but I'll take your word. Next one is a big one. It's Verizon Business, who are, well, I think essentially Verizon do like mobile data, that sort of thing. And close to the podcast is Vodafone. So this is going to be the number 12 Vodafone Chevrolet.
Yes. For listeners of the podcast, I at one point, and maybe still am, employed by Vodafone in the United Kingdom. So very close to home. Vodafone Business, if we're being pedantic. Because it does exist. So
it does exist, does it? Okay.
Vodafone Business is quite big, so I won't get into certain of my jobs, but Vodafone Business is pretty big, so you could go for Vodafone Business. Bitnile.com. Now we go to the properly weird sponsors. Again, I still don't understand what this is. It's not the buzz one here, but Bitnile.com apparently, according to them, is an innovative online social gaming platform offering a fresh take on casino-style entertainment. They provide a diverse array of games that users can play for free, including uncommon experiences alongside popular favorites like table games and roulette. I just saw it as an online casino. I didn't really understand it in the slightest. So I've just gone for Stake, because that's like a pretty big global brand which probably have some presence in the UK. So that was mine. Honestly, still don't really know what they do. So I'm just guessing, really.
Yep, fair enough. Next up is Homes for Our Troops, which they specialize in, I think, caring for war veterans. So for the kind of British equivalent, I've gone for the Royal British Legion, who are similarly a charity based around the army and armed forces.
You've got a few more than me, so just do another one now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I've done Phoenix Investors, haven't I? So next up is Guy Care, which I'll be honest, I didn't really understand what Guy Care was. I'll just give it a quick Google again. It's one of the kind of Todd Oates, weird Ed Carpenter things. Guy Care clinics provide discreet and confidential care, ensuring men's health and well-being. So that's actually a lot more normal than a lot more normal than some of the AI metaverse-based Ed Carpenter racing things. But I've gone for a popular UK brand, Gillette.
The best a man can get. That might have to be the intro for this week. Staying at Ed Carpenter Racing, I went for Direct Supply. So they're based in Wisconsin, which is why you see them at Road America every year. And they're a private company that specializes in providing equipment, e-commerce, and services to healthcare organizations and the senior living industry. There isn't really a direct equivalent, but there's a company called PHS in the UK who offer specialized equipment for washrooms and healthcare services. So I thought they will do. Again, I haven't heard of most of these, so.
No, now we're on to the weird AskROI.com. I think it's something to do with AI and AI solutions and that sort of thing. I know this isn't a UK company, but it's worldwide. I've gone for ChatGPT just because it would be cool to have it on an IndyCar. And thanks to ChatGPT, I figured out what some of these brands I didn't know what they were. Next one was 4-6's Ranch, which I think was Ryan Hunter-Reay's, wasn't it, in the Indy 500? Which, I mean, it's just a big ranch, seemingly. So again, this was one that I needed a bit of help from our ChatGPT friend, and I chose the National Trust, who kind of, it's essentially sort of. How do we describe it to our American listeners? Like,
it's a
national. They operate within kind of natural.
They purchase like historical buildings and sites and make it into like a place people can visit, and
often in like sort of national park type things. So that's my next one.
Right, I got dumped with the hard from them all. Polka Dot. Which is a daily sponsor. So we did like a whole segment and we still couldn't work out what Polka Dot is. I still can't work out what Polka Dot is live with me. The more I research it, the more I get confused what it actually is. Some cryptocurrency sort of thing. I still don't really understand it. Nobody can ever explain to me. Like if anyone can ever explain this to me, viewers, if you can explain this to me, please treat me like an alien who's never heard of any cryptocurrency or blockchain or anything like this before. I honestly couldn't really be bothered to do research, so I just searched up another company, and apparently there's one called Avalanche. No idea. I really don't want to get into any more with Polka Dot, because otherwise today I will lose the will to live, I think, if I carry on any longer.
So my next one is Riley's Children Foundation, or Riley Children's Foundation, I think it's called, which is essentially what it says on the tin. I think it is. Was it a Stingray Rob sponsor?
No, it's a Rasmussen sponsor in Indy 500.
Oh, was it? Interesting. Okay. So yeah, that's just obviously kind of supporting children who may be in need. So I could have gone for Children in Need, which is a TV kind of show they have once a year in the UK. But I went for the NSPCC, which is a similar sort of charity.
And to do next one as well, then we'll have one each to end.
Yep. So next one is a Stingray Rob one, which is Good Heart, which is kind of a veterinary animal care service. So I went for the RSPCA, who are kind of our wildlife care company in the UK.
So I've got another Stingray Rob one, and I think this is my favourite of all the ones that I found. So Pray.com, obviously a sponsor, which it's some sort of prayer app which gives you each day some prayer advice and prayer tips and that sort of thing. And it grew quite a lot during lockdown, and it's sort of a way to manage Christians' prayers and that sort of things. So I went for the Church of England Daily Prayer app.
Nice.
So we've got the number 41 Church of England Daily Prayer app, AJ4 Enterprises Chevrolet. Isn't that catchy?
Good stuff. Good stuff. My final one is DNS Filter. Who did they sponsor?
Grosjean.
Oh, I forgot he was. I was thinking it was still Andretti. I was thinking of the number 28 Andretti car. Did they sponsor him with Andretti? Maybe not. I think I may be thinking of Delaware Life actually. It is. I think it's some sort of cyber security brand, making businesses safer, malware and phishing protection. So I've gone for McAfee, which often comes up as like a cyber security thing on my laptop. So that's what I'm going for.
So that's it for the Chevrolet sponsors. Now, from my side, anyone can please explain to me what on earth Astemo do, what on earth NTT Data do, what on earth Bitnar.com do, and what Polkadot do. That would be greatly appreciated by me, because I still don't have any idea.
I just like clarification on Arrow Electronics and on Semi, because it's all techie stuff that I don't quite understand.
Yes. Listeners, if you know, please explain it to us, because we don't understand in the slightest. But anyway, well, it's not quite PG Tips or the British like Kettle Crisps or Walkers that we quite expected, is it?
I was thinking of like Kellogg's, or do they have Cadbury's in the US?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
But not enough traditional British brands I was expecting. We don't quite have the PG Tips.
Maybe next time. Yeah, maybe next time. But yeah, no, that might have been a completely frivolous task. You may have switched off halfway through, or you may have got through it. You may have learned more about IndyCar sponsors, and you may be from the UK and you are really wanting to now design the JCB Chevy.
The Church of England Daily Prayer app. If anyone makes a model for that, it becomes the podcast header for about a month, if anyone can design that, because I'd love to see that. But that's it for IndyCar sponsors. And as we always do, we'll end off with some history. So I'm in this week doing 1945 to 1949. So that's obviously the end of the war. So in this period, we had back home in Indiana performed for the first time before the start of the race.
My favourite tradition. My favourite tradition.
Fine. But we've come back from the war, obviously. So the speedway gates were locked, the facility was abandoned, and the race wasn't held from 1942 to 1945. In this period, the track was closed and basically fell into a terrible state of disrepair. There were grass, there were weeds, the bricks were basically being overwhelmed by this like natural growth, and the old wooden grandstands became frail and unsuitable and hospitable. So they basically started replacing them all in order to get it ready for the 1946 event. However, my story is from 1948 on this occasion, because we had one of the most unique cars to ever hit the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Do you know why? Or would you have a guess as to why this car is unique?
Had 3 wheels?
You're actually very close. It had 6 wheels.
Oh, wow.
Didn't have its colour engine, because it had 6 wheels. So, the story started off, as I said, in 1948. And a man called Pat Clancy owned a tracking company, which he hauled through the mountains of Tennessee. This truck had 6 wheels to provide more traction on the winding mountain roads. So one of his truck drivers came up to him and they asked, if 6 wheels worked in the mountains, why wouldn't they work in the Indianapolis 500? As they would give a driver more grip in the corners around the speedway. So what did he do? Pat Clancy tried to attempt making a 6-wheel car for the Indianapolis 500, and he hired a man named Billy DeVore. So in 1948, approximately between 45 and 50 cars made a qualifying attempt, and DeVore qualified in 21st place, and he finished in 12th. So there is a source somewhere saying he was black flagged for being too stable. I can't verify this, so I don't actually know. But anyway, the six-wheel car didn't do terribly in the first event. It finished the race. But Clancy wanted to go again the following year. So in 1949, he tried again with a person called Jackie Holmes. It didn't go as well. The car broke a drive shaft and finished 22nd. They only finished 65 laps, and after then, it converted back to a conventional four-wheeler, but failed to qualify. So the reason why it didn't work is just basically because it added more than 200 pounds of weight, and this weight took away from obviously mechanical losses, made it slower in a straight line, didn't have a huge overall benefit. So although it might have given a bit more grip into corners, it was just too heavy to realistically make an impact. So that's it for this week. 1948 was the first appearance of a six-wheeled car at Indianapolis, and the only one ever, probably.
That's very cool. That is so cool.
Yeah. I do like this history segment. You do find some random stuff, but that's your random one for this week.
It can take a lot of research, but yeah, if you unearth a gem, that's what we want. We don't necessarily need to tell you about the winners or what happened in this period. We want to find the again that word, the wackiest thing we can.
Yes. When we get to the period where theoretically there's going to be more to find. So
yeah, many more things to come. And on that note, as this releases, it will be 101 days until St. Pete. So come Wednesday, it will be 100 days before cars hit track for first practice.
Yes. And as we said, obviously, Dave releases the thermal test, and it's very good to have three very good friends of the podcast on the track. So good luck to all drivers, but especially the good friends of the IndyCar podcast. But for this week, obviously, we've done quite a bit. Hopefully, you sort of understood what was going on in the second half and picked up some of the stuff we said in the first half, as usual. No idea what's going on next week, but something will be there, and we will find something. But for this week, thanks very much for watching, thanks very much for listening, and we will see you next time.